back to Just Advisor Things. I'm so excited today. We're chatting with Leland Mallett. He is an advisor in the Dallas area, and I've learned so much from him when I started advising. One of my really good friends, Samantha Berry, who was on last week's episode, told me about Leland, and I looked at his website and I just felt so inspired. And has such great documents that helped me organize my program. And so we have definitely a lot to learn from him. So how are you guys? How are you doing today? Welcome to Just Advisor Things.
I'm doing good.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. So I'd like to just start off by telling our audience a little bit about you. How did you get into advising? How long have you been doing it? And then tell us also a little bit about how your program is structured.
Well, I did newspaper in middle school because I didn't get into woodworking. And so they threw me in newspaper and I loved it. And I did it in high school. And then at Lubbock Christian, where I went to school, they had asked me to work on the yearbook. And I first said no until they offered a nice scholarship. So I was like, I can definitely do that. So I did yearbook for, I guess, 2 years in college. And then got my education degree and then started teaching. I started off in Big Spring, Texas, which is in West Texas, was there for 7 years. And then I had a friend who started a new school in Frisco. He was the basketball coach. And he said, hey, you really got to start a new school. It's great starting traditions. It's, just this new vibe that's really exciting. And he had started one of the schools and was actually transferring to a new school that year. So he wanted me to work there. So we went up there and I just really didn't like Frisco. It seemed, I'm a small town guy. It was really big, lots of cement and lots of streets and overpasses, And so I told my wife, Harmony, I was like, yeah, this just doesn't feel right. And then someone said, Mansfield, which we're just south of Arlington, right in the middle of DFW. So we're kind of out of all the city-ish stuff. So they're opening a new high school. You should check that out. No, we're not going to do that. That's the city. I don't want to
DFW, no.
Yeah, we're not doing anything in the city. And so we actually just kind of sat on it for a while. And then they named a principal who went to Lubbock Christian. So that's a little weird. I'll go ahead and apply. And he immediately called me in. This would have been, I guess, the April before the next school year. So I was one of the first people hired at Legacy. I didn't know that at the time. So it was a great year. We started traditions. We named the yearbook and the newspaper and
that's fun.
The podcast. So it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work, but it was really a lot of fun. Now we've been here, I guess this is year 16 here at Legacy.
That's so exciting.
Yeah. So I teach newspaper and yearbook and broadcast and advanced photo and journalism 1. And then Rachel Derringer's here as well. She teaches Photo 1 and helps with the yearbook during our conference period. Mm-hmm. So we were team teaching when we had huge numbers, but COVID brought the numbers down, finally getting back to normal.
Yeah. It's crazy how one, I mean, obviously a huge event, but can just cause so much change in the way that you built your program over so many years, and then it takes so long to build back up. But okay, so what I think of your program, I think of a well-oiled machine. You seem to have processes and procedures that your kids just know what to do. They're having fun along the way. So how did you create that, develop that, and how would you recommend someone work towards that?
A lot of it was time. It adjusts a lot every year depending on the kids and the staff and the editors and what they want to do. But just over time, kind of adding this procedure, it would be easier if we did this. I'm still learning. Tiffany Womack was in the classroom years ago here at another Mansfield school. And she's like, why do you do your senior ads that way? You should do this. And I was like, this is life-changing. Yes. So I think being willing to learn and take other ideas and see what people do in class. I love to go visit other people's classrooms, during UIL meets and things, mm-hmm. just to see how their classroom is set up and what they're doing differently. And I kind of take all that and make it my own, which everything is up on our website at legacystudentmedia.com. And so all of the procedures that we do, the checklist, I'm a to-do list guy. I am just going to show you. Oh, it's right here in front of me. I mean, mm-hmm. I live by a to-do list, So I think checking things off just makes me feel good. So I kind of, I think instilled that in my own students of, that
For sure.
it's done. But I always tell people, take my stuff and just adapt it. That's what I've done with other things,
Hmm.
other people's ideas and methods. And so
Yeah, that's it.
when you've been doing this for 24 years, you acquire a lot of things and just
For
adapt.
sure. That's what I mean. There's like nothing new under the sun, they say, but I think that's something that's so like wonderful is that you're so generous with it. And so like your staff manual is online and you can take bits and pieces of it. And I'm always a really big fan of credit. So like on my staff manual, it says like adapted from Leland Mallett because it was just so robust. I was like, I don't need no notes. I don't have any edits. Like it's perfect. Obviously change the school name and stuff like that, but like it was just so comprehensive, which I so appreciated as a new advisor, having no experience in anything aside from being a yearbook student. It's just totally different, like being on the production side of things as the teacher and advisor. So I appreciate it from from all the other advisors we have. So
I remember when I started, there was a DVD that had all kinds of handouts and stuff, and that was my little like almost Bible of just that went everywhere with me. And so of course now that we're not using DVDs, it's all on the web, but I just remember all that help, and I remember where that came from, but I was just so thankful to have it. So, that feeling of being new and having those resources.
And I mean, sometimes the resources they're there, but there's so many of them that it's overwhelming. And so being able to like really boil them down and figure out what are the bare minimum, like what do I need to do? Because also I think looking at a book like yours, especially like it's kind of intimidating. Like you have won a bunch of awards, the reporting is really great, the design is really great. Like you're the gold standard, And so for a new advisor, it's like, how do I get there? And where do I even start? And I think you've done a really good job of being generous again with those resources to figure out, to help advisors get there.
And I remember when I first started teaching, again, I didn't really do yearbook, except for college, and college is kind of a different experience. But I remember sitting down and they had the best of high school press, and I would see that and see all these award-winning things and thinking, there's no way kids do this. How is this happening? This is so unreal. And now years later, we still get them, and I still think that, but my name's in there, and I'm thinking, wow, how did we do that?
Kids did do that.
Yeah, like how did that even happen? And so I always tell people is, it happens, and it happens fast. The advice I got from Bill Koff from Lubbock High, who retired about the time I started, he said, survive 3 years and then start mastering things. Yeah. And I didn't realize how true that was until I survived for 3 years. And then that's when things started happening. That's when the awards started coming. And I remember, I don't know that, of course, you're always set out for awards, but when that first one came, it was just like, already, I expected this to take so much longer. And then you still feel inadequate. 24 years, I'm still figuring this out, y'all. I don't know.
Yeah. Why are you coming to me?
Yeah.
Right. But I think that's, like when you have that commitment to learning and growing and doing better a little bit each year, eventually you get there. And I think sometimes new advisors, I mean, especially right now, there's so much turnover. People aren't lasting even 3 years to get to the point where they can start to master it. And, I think that's why conversations like this are so helpful, to let new advisors like into your classroom and see how you do it. Because otherwise, I mean, we're by ourselves, winging it across town, which is, it's tough. So.
Yeah, you're probably going to mention, it's probably in your notes, but I started a thing this year for new advisors, just kind of my daily blog of what I did in class and using my resources up there. And so anybody's welcome to do that. Probably put the link, however you.
Sure, I can put that in the description.
I just think things like that are helpful. Like you said, I know that, publishing companies have their big, huge curriculum and these big binders, and it's some awesome stuff. But I remember when I first started, I just needed the basics, just give me what I'm doing
day to day. Like, what do I do?
Yeah. So I think that's a good, helpful thing for those new advisors.
For sure. And you've posted, I guess, kind of what you're doing in class each day, especially in the very beginning of the year where you're doing a lot of teaching and coaching versus kind of probably at this point you're starting to pull back on that and like you're just in production mode.
Yeah, it does get harder of what am I doing? So it's a
Yeah.
lot of planning ahead.
I'm advising.
Like all I did today was sit around and help fix computer problems.
Yeah. Put that in your log, in your journal.
Yeah.
That's all I did. But that, I mean, that's the idea, right? Is that in the beginning you're training and you're reteaching and coaching and teaching more so than advising. And then eventually you get your students to do a lot of that, right?
Yeah. That's key, is having those kids that like on the website right now. I'm really worried that my senior who's graduating, he's the one that does all the design and does all the things. And, I haven't touched it in 3 years. And so it's changed a lot. And I'm really worried of next year. If we want to redesign, how do we get there?
Who's going to do it?
I've already said, all right, this is 2 people that may be editor next year, start showing them, because I just don't know.
Right. But that's the dream. You've empowered them to take control, and that way you don't have to do everything. So you've really taken on that project manager role, which I think is also a good skill for students to learn too, because these kids aren't necessarily going to go and be journalists. They might work in technology or in marketing or whatever. So those are good skills to model for them too. So speaking of that, how, like, you've had a bunch of students obviously graduate from your program. Have you had a large number of them either get inspired by the program and go into journalism, or what is a common career path?
The most common is marketing. If I say something, I say go into marketing, strategic marketing, and that kind of thing. So it's wide, a multimedia degree. I've had very few actually go into journalism. I have a former student who works for ESP in Dallas. One that works, it's a Catholic magazine. I don't remember the name of it, but she's there, or was there. So I have a meteorologist in South Texas. So that's really about it. Journalism.
Right.
I have copy editors all over the place. I have lots of marketing. Not one journalism teacher after 24 years.
Someday, maybe. Come back.
I had one of my former students was in the Balfour plant as an AE for years. So that's the closest I got.
Yeah.
She repped for a little bit and then moved to the AE position. But yeah, strangely, no journalism teachers.
Not yet. You never know. It's never too late.
They're all like, "You work too hard." I'm like, "Man, I'm sorry. I've gave a negative."
I made it look like that. Dang it. That's funny. Yeah, I think that's common, is that I think a lot of times people join a yearbook or newspaper because they either like to write or take pictures, or they just need a home on campus. But a lot of times they realize, hey, I could do this professionally in some capacity. So I think that's really cool to watch that, career path grow and that trajectory, even if it's not journalism. There's so many industries that can come out of journalism.
Well, and just I always say, even if you don't stay with me after journalism 1, is that you've learned skills that you'll always use, from writing to talking to people and analyzing data, just common skills that you can use. One of my very first newspaper editor is a federal courts appeal justice in Houston. We went to her. There's a fancy word they use. It was very obvious that we were not lawyers or judges when we were hanging out. I felt like I dressed like them, but we stuck out. And she thanked me in her little speech of, she learned how writing and words mattered and to be precise. And then she thanked her college professor as well. So I thought that was pretty special.
That's great. Yeah, I love that.
She filled the position from the governor filled it to. It's like, yeah, this is so cool. But then I just never really thought how that could help, be a judge,
Right. You think like that, we're not doing law here, but professional communication is applicable in any industry. So
wordsmith was her thing. So
that's great. I love to hear that, stories like that. Okay, so speaking of proud dad moments, you've had your students, your own children on staff, right?
I do. I have 2 of them right now. My oldest is graduated from college. He's about to graduate from college in May. He was my newspaper editor. My middle one is she's a senior this year, and she's my yearbook editor. And then the youngest, she's a junior and my photo editor. So they've all done different things.
Yeah,
Been a part of. That's really the best part of the job right now is I get to see them.
for
Well,
sure.
my seniors every day, and we're on block schedule, so an hour and a half every day. And it's their friends that are here right now too. And
Hmm.
trips, we just got back from Boston. It was really just my girls and their friends,
Hmm.
So it's a really special moment right now.
That's
Just
great.
here. Although people always ask what it's like to have your,
That's my next question. Are there anything that it's challenging, or they're just
I
wonderful,
forget that
perfect
they're
angels?
mine. I just forget they're my kids when they're here, I'm still barking out commands and make sure you do this, make sure you do that. We talk a little bit at home, but it's not
Yeah.
all the time or anything. Yeah, the students will go to them a lot of times to ask questions they would ask me, and I don't know, ask them, they get more of the weirdness than I do. They're just another student doing the whatever job.
Right.
I think because I have so many and I'm just going in different directions, I don't have time to think that, oh, that's my baby.
Right.
But
Plus, because it is so student led, I mean, it's not like you're giving them assignments and favoring them or anything like that. Like the students are doing all of that. So
yeah,
that's great.
It's been really good. There haven't been any problems, so.
Yeah, that's so special. Like, what a great little season to have your kids, on staff and creating, and then all the special moments that you experience with your students, but like to have your own kids, I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah,
So
it's been great. Really.
Yeah. Okay, so kind of shifting gears a little bit, I want to like dive in a little bit to your production process. So looking at your yearbooks, they're beautiful. Like I said, they're the gold standard, but it's not just the aesthetics that are so good. It's the storytelling, the theme. Could you share a little bit about how you coach your students to get to that and what the process looks like?
It waters down to a simple question of what story are you telling? I think it's changed the way we tell that story, because you used to have a big story and then a big picture and then, all the other things around that big picture. Now it's more of lots of little things, telling lots of little stories. Every now and then there's still that big feature, but I think it's changed the way we tell it. But at the end of the day, we are just, what story are we trying to tell? So when we're doing theme at the beginning of the year, does this lead to telling great stories? I really like this year's theme. It's just one word, if. Everyone's like, that's crazy, you can't do that. But it's not based on what if happened prediction. It's like if Sam had not moved to Houston and become your friend, we probably wouldn't be friends, met another way. So that if is that factual thing.
Oh,
So
that's cool.
it's a great way to tell stories throughout, and all the stories start with if so and so would have this, then so it's this kind of interweaving of things. So that's set up for a lot of good storytelling, just that one word, if. And we found a poem from Kipling that's all about if. And it's, if you've done this and if you've done this, then you're a man, I think is how it ends. So that was our opening copy. If you've done this, if you've, been dress coded by Mr. Cousins, if you whatever, then you know what it's like to be a Bronco. So it's kind of finding those pieces to tell the story, and constantly planning ahead is another one. I try to stay 2 deadlines ahead of, all right, let's get inspiration. What does this look like? What stories are you telling on there? So, and again, like you said, it's a well-oiled machine. And so the ones that have been there before know to get going, and what questions are we asking? And it's just storytelling in different ways and fashion. And I don't, every year, I think I'm like everyone, I'm like, yeah, this is just not the year. It's not going to happen.
You like worry that it's not going to be as good.
Together. Yeah. And this year's been the same way until about last week. It's been like, this is a great theme, but we just haven't done anything. It's like, it's just kind of there. And so finally they had a meeting and it took off, and changed some design part of it. So I should know by now not to stress about it, but I still do.
Oh yeah, it's just natural.
This is not happening.
Yeah.
Plus, stressing about staff, I think I'm gonna have to shut down the newspaper and just do yearbook, and my world just starts closing in, and it's never happened, but I just worry about it.
the nature of advising, I think, is to be to worry about things that are probably fine.
Yeah.
So I mean, you've done this for so long. Like, what are some ways that you have learned to reduce that stress or manage that stress? I mean, we talked about delegating to students, but to a new advisor who's like overwhelmed, how would you advise them?
Best advice I got when I first started from Bill Koff was go home. There will always be things to do. And I had to learn that the hard way. It's because I felt like I have to get this to-do list done. And I've learned to it makes me feel better to put it on. There's only so much you can do in a day. And sometimes you don't get the most perfect thing, but at the end of the day too, it's a high school publication. Your mental health, your family, your outside of things matter more than just a publication.
Right.
Am I passionate? Do I love what I do? Do I work at home still? Yes. But again, my daughter's there, so that helps too. So that was
like, stop it. You like ground yourself from yearbook.
Yeah. And like Thanksgiving, I told her, I was like, we're not working on the yearbook at all. We just shipped in a bunch of pages. It's going to be, Thanksgiving's going to be a good break, and we won't work on it. So I think that was the biggest thing I learned is, set an alarm and go home. There will always be things to do. So
that's good advice. I know that's definitely something that I struggled with in the beginning is I was just like, the longer I stay, the more I can get done. And I'll just go home at 8 and like get back here at 7. And like, there's just no life balance there. And I was stressing myself out more by the things that I wasn't getting done at home. And it was like just this vicious cycle. So those boundaries are so important. I think I was telling Sam yesterday, we recorded our episode, and I was like, I mean, I love yearbook more than anyone. We all love yearbook. Like we think that it's so fun, but it's at the end of the day, it's just a yearbook. It's not life or death. It's not rocket science or brain surgery. Like, it's a yearbook. It's a high school yearbook. So like all the stress that comes with it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Your family matters, your health matters, something like that.
I used to be get in class and go until I guess a little before COVID, when my son was here. I realized that, he had a big test, and if I didn't know he had a big test that day, I would have come in and going, go. But I'm like, all right, you need time to study. And all of his friends were in the same physics class or whatever. Like, all right, I hear you'll have a physics class. Let's take 20 minutes, guys, go study together. So I think my kids in my class, and then now after COVID, it's just, we've had days where we just sat around and we just gossiped. We just talked. We didn't do anything. And those are some of my favorite days, and then sometimes we talk about future things of who's going to be editor next year. What if next year's theme is this? And it has nothing to do with what we're doing, but it just feels good.
Right. And that's that bonding.
Yeah. And, after COVID, that was my big thing too, is I want to bring, I jokingly said, make journalism fun again, because people are just sitting at computers and going home. And so that was a big stress of this needs to be fun. We need to do things outside of class. We need to have things in class that make people feel wanted and needed and appreciated. And the last 3 groups of editors have done an amazing job of, they've started all kinds of things like foodies on the 4th. We go out to eat somewhere fancy on the 4th or somebody's home. They have just little things throughout. They have this stupid dance party thing. I found it, but it's kind of a joke, this button thing. So just stupid, fun things that make the class fun again. For that, change that atmosphere back.
Right. Yeah. I feel like that's a question I get a lot, especially post-COVID, is how do I motivate my students? How do I get them to care? And I think that's a big part of it, is getting them to enjoy the work in order to take ownership of it and genuinely care. Like, you can't force it.
Yeah. It's having a relationship with others outside of the room. It's knowing it's a safe place, like you said. I call it my alligator story. I should take a picture and put it up somewhere, but I have a picture of a boat, and that's Life's boat. And there's these alligators coming to get you, and you have to attack the first alligator. You can only do one at a time. You can't take on all these guys. Don't do the one back here, because he's not getting your boat first. So it's kind of an ongoing joke this past year of like, too many alligators today. And then they go to the back office and study or whatever. And So I know that, hey, there's more going on outside of this yearbook class or newspaper class.
Right.
And I think it makes them feel safe that they can take those days, or they can, but yes, this is important, and they feel like they have big shoes to fill and keep winning whatever. But at the end of the day, it's, they matter more.
For sure. Yeah. And there's a space, and it's okay to do that. And then I think also, because you give them that space, they are more likely to pay you back by working hard and getting the stuff done the next day or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's great. Okay. So another question that I get asked a lot, and I think I've asked it in every single interview, is grading. How do you grade, with your well-oiled machine? Are students doing it, or how do you evaluate their progress, success, and put grades in the grade book?
I'm the worst to ask, probably. But
that's what everyone says.
Everybody says that. I only do grades on Sundays, so I don't do grades throughout the week, because that just took up too much time to go in and fix a grade or put this in or whatever. And that's hard for if you've missed something. And so I align everything by, like, this is week 3 of the third 6 weeks. And so they know ahead of time what's due when, and that matches in the grade book. It'll have, 3.3 and whatever was due. And I put those in on Sunday. For newspaper, it's 4 stories in 6 weeks. And then yearbook is usually it's a gonna make this up after football season. And so he's doing a little extra now that football's finished. So it's working with them to figure it out. That's not really a grading.
It's a challenge, man.
Philosophy. It's just,
no, it's okay.
I have a thing for them to do a week, and they get graded on Sunday.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that works. Everyone has a little bit of a different answer. And I think that also, like, confirms that you have to do what works best for you and your program and your requirements of your district, which is why there is no one size fits all best practice, which isn't easy to always listen to, but it's the reality. So, okay, you mentioned newspaper. So with your newspaper, are you only online, or do you print it as well? You said they have to do 4 stories in 6 weeks.
We're only online at this point.
Okay.
One is an in-depth something they've got to do some research for and talk to a lot of people and have some kind of graphic or rich media that goes with it. So that takes a little more time. I encourage them to do some fluff things, like a list story or Q&A story with somebody. So those take up a little bit of time there at the beginning, and probably a news or sports stories in there somewhere, and then that big one. Yeah. So if I have 22 kids on staff times 4 stories.
Yeah, a lot of content.
A lot of things going. I do things in Journalism 1 as well. Like right now they're writing a list story and doing graphic stories using Canva and some data gathering things. So if those are really good, I say, I'll give you huge extra credit if it goes on the Writer Online. And so they're, oh yeah, I'll do that. And then, it's a bonus for them. Like, look, this got published. I'm just a freshman. There's other content coming from Journalism 1 classes.
Yeah, that's very cool. It's like again, that machine, like, generating content. And you can also see, like, who's good that, you could move up to newspaper next year. So do your editors for newspaper, like, plan out that content, when goes live, and what topics are going, making sure everything that does need to be covered is that kind of stuff?
Yeah. They have a schedule, like these list stories that are done way ahead. There's 3 or 4 categories that are just stuff. that's all done early and it's planned ahead and it's already scheduled the beginning of the week so they can focus on news and sports throughout the week.
Yeah, the live.
Here's a good story idea. Here's a good story idea. Make sure we've covered this. Here's this from this teacher. Most of the time it happens. It's magically there later. I look at all the stories at some point through the process. Usually Sundays is when I go through and read and leave some comments, and then it may finish the next week. But if I feel like if I've seen it through the process, then it's okay. I'll put notes on the Google Doc of, see me for final approval, or just my initials if it's okay. Because of course, there's some sensitive things that I want to see before they post. But
by and large, you trust the editors to make those decisions.
Yeah, they're the ones running the in and out of the daily things. Like today in class, we have computer problems and our servers doing weird things, so we had to do an update. So I was like IT guy the whole period. And, they're taking care of stories, and had an interview with the principal, and it's just like you said, it's kind of a well-oiled machine. It's just things are just happening all around.
That must be so nice. I bet I'm thinking as a new advisor that's overwhelmed thinking about the future and building that, and then being able to really kind of sit back and watch it happen, I think is probably rewarding to be like, you're good.
I think that's those 3 years as you get your kids after those 3 years, and they know what you want, what you expect. And what's nice for us is that they went to just get back from Boston, and a couple of my sophomores were like, people knew who we were. I was like, what do you mean? It was probably Samantha Berry, somebody that ran into him and saw Legacy. It's like, I know your advisor. You have a great publication. And so it made them feel really good of, hey, what we do is good, and that we're important.
People know, yeah.
What we're doing is important, telling people stories. And like, hey, somebody in class was talking about the tweet and the Instagram thing that we did. It was so cool.
Good.
So I think them seeing that it's a real world thing and people are looking at it, they care to make sure.
It adds weight to it when people are looking and checking it out. Okay, so that actually brought up another question that I had for you about promotion and social media, and then kind of tying that into sales. So to what level are your students responsible for that, or what are their responsibilities when it comes to that?
You mean marketing and social media and things? I have 5 people that their whole job is just social media. We took on TikTok this year. We played with it in the past, and I don't TikTok, so I don't get it. But I have a senior this year that she's done really well, and she just posted one that says, this is a TikTok trend that I changed to buying your yearbook. I'm like, looks good to me. She did a football dads thing, went through the stands and talked to all the football dads during football season. So, and of course, it's a kid I trust too, that I know is going to do a good job. Another one is just in charge of all social media. She schedules everything through Buffer. And, I can go see it. Most of the time, it's just promotions of stories, or do a photo of the day every day. But the kids are pretty much running it all. I see it. I can see it. I can change it if I want to. But it's just we do a Bronco Minute each week, which is a minute of news that happened or is going to happen. That the principal's really good at sending that out in her weekly email.
Oh, good. So you have that admin support too.
Yeah. So people are seeing that, but they do it all, and they mix in yearbook sales and just here's what's going on with school, and make sure you've done this. And it just I wouldn't say that we promote ourselves a lot. It just kind of naturally happens.
Right. I mean, it's a deadline that's coming up. Buy your yearbook, buy your senior ad, whatever. So do you think that your presence on campus is what drives your yearbook sales, that the marketing that you do and the reputation, that it's kind of circular? And also, I guess, recruitment for the journalism classes and stuff?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's, we had a fire drill yesterday, and somebody was walking by and they're like, the writer online, I follow them on Instagram. I didn't know the classroom's right here. That's the choir room right across the hall. But I thought that was funny that they just connected that with Instagram account. So yeah, I think having that presence of, and I tell my students that they need to promote themselves as well. So we're not a they.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my friend so-and-so is in this, or
Mm-hmm.
my friend Reese is a photo person in this. And I think that helps too in promoting and getting people involved. I've had a lot more this year come to me and say, can I come in at semester? I want to drop this whatever class.
Mm.
I'm like, sure. What are you good at?
Yeah.
What do you do? Give me a portfolio? And so I've gained a couple of photographers doing that. And like, we follow you on
Cool.
Instagram, and we think we could do that. And so
Yeah, that's
yeah,
great.
absolutely helps. We go down, we just went to the middle school to recruit. We do that twice a year.
Mm-hmm.
And make sure that they follow us. So they're, before they even get to high school, they're
Mm-hmm.
hopefully on our social media accounts, seeing what we do. I think I always tell them it's cooler at middle school to see what the high school's doing.
Oh yeah, for sure. You planted a little seed, so you can recruit them from early on before they even know what other options there are. So that's good.
So we, for the first time, turned down J1. I have 2 J1 classes, and both of them have 33 and 35. So
Wow, big ones.
So we've turned a bunch down. So we got to figure out a way to open another section somewhere.
Yeah, which is sad because it's a good problem to have, but at the same time, I mean, there's only one of you, so you can't necessarily teach 8 sections of J1. So, okay, so what about yearbook sales? Do you mostly just rely on that, like social media and promotion, and obviously probably principal emails and stuff too, or do you guys have dedicated tactics?
It drives my rep crazy. The last day, well, I just could scream. When I ask a kid, have you bought a yearbook? That's a yes or no question. And they always say, when's the last day? I'm like, it's a yes or no question.
Right. Have you, as of right now, have you bought it?
Have you bought well, when's the last day? And so we have really played on that for years. And so we have a last day promotion. And so I have yard signs that go out around school, the postcards that hit the mailbox at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
The yearbook company sends an email the same week. It says final chance, final chance. And I'm not kidding. We sell 400 or 500 in that week.
Just relying on that messaging.
Yeah. And then I stop. And that's what drives my rep crazy, because I don't do anything else after that. Because if there's another last chance, that really wasn't the last chance.
Right. Then it doesn't have to wait.
To buy.
Mm-hmm.
So I play that up in January of, last chance. We go do sidewalk chalk. We have kids out handing out flyers with moms in the circle drive in the morning. I mean, on and on. That last week is the biggest thing. All the social media. I have all my students change it to the same graphic, their profile pictures that say,
oh yeah,
the yearbook, it says last chance. Man, we go hard that last week.
Those are some great ideas. You just threw out there like some nuggets of like those marketing ideas. I love the idea of like in the drop-off line, like harassing those parents because they're a captive audience.
Get the mascot uniform so the kids don't want to do it unless they, then now they're not seen. They can be whoever and do that. So, and we put up the list of who's bought in the cafeteria, and it's just, that week is just all about sales. We try to do a bunch at the beginning, like put up posters and things. I just don't feel like they notice until that last chance.
Right.
And of course, the site still stays open for a few weeks, and we sell things. I order a few extras, and they always sell. But I don't know that that's the best answer, but
hey, whatever works. Like I think
that's works here. Yeah,
that's a good tactic that to talk about right now, because we're towards the end of the semester and we're getting to that like final quantity submission date, and do that final push, get your entire staff involved. That's smart.
Well, to give you an idea, I looked this morning, we're at 330 books, and we usually do about 1,200.
Okay, so you saw a lot of them towards the very
end. And we also offer our 40/40 plan on campus. That partial payment for our low economic students. We're almost a Title I school here. So I think not seeing that full price tag all at once helps. So they can pay 40 now and 40 when it comes in. And we sell almost 100 books on that 40/40 plan.
Yeah.
But that's, we go that last week, we will go to the basketball game and sell as they're coming in.
Just everywhere you can think of.
Oh my goodness, clothespins that say buy your yearbook, and we stick them on people as they're going through the hall. We have fake. It's realitydrop.com, I think is the website. You can make fake money.
Oh yeah.
Sheets, and on the back side it says, hey.
That's funny. I did that in college, actually. Chegg is a yearbook, or not yearbook, textbook rental company, and I was like a promoter, and they had little fake dollar bills, and I felt so devious, like passing them around campus, but it worked. I mean, it got the attention for sure. So
well, the best part is they pick it up off the floor because we wad it up just gently.
yeah,
they look real. They're really only like that big
but it look crumpled up. It looks real. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the best part is they get mad and they throw it back down for the
Like,
next person.
Free marketing again. It'll work a second time.
Oh, yeah, that all happens that last week of that final week.
Yeah, I love that. The blitz of all the efforts all at one time.
So I think they here, they're trained for that, to know,
right.
Well, when's the last day? Well, this is the last day.
Yeah.
And I do increase my price after that too, so that they're
and then once the yearbook comes in, do you increase it at the very end too? Yeah. Makes sense. Okay, well, I think my last question is, we've kind of talked about it, but overall, Samantha, was really struggling in the beginning of her career and came to you, and you were really able to help her. And so kind of in that same vein, like a new advisor that's stressed out and overwhelmed, what advice would you give to them about the industry or the job or life in general?
We're all stressed.
Yeah.
We've just gotten better at hiding it, I guess. And that it is a fun job. It's a really rewarding job. I tell my kids all the time, we're the only ones making something that you take home and keep. And, theater does some great shows. We have a great theater, but once it's done, it's done. Our band marches some great shows, and, they're making things, but they're not lasting, where ours, you can go back on our website from when we launched in 2010 and still find stories from kids that wrote. Yearbooks are on the shelf forever. So it is a fun job. It's a rewarding job. You just get to tell people stories all day. I could sit around and tell stories about all kinds of things all day long. And so that's what I do for a living, is just tell stories. So stick with it is my biggest advice. So many people, it is time consuming, and you want it to be perfect. And then you get those angry phone calls at the end where whatever happened, and you just want to quit. And I still do. I'm like, oh no, I turn off the phones, but stick with it. There's been such a turnover. I'm really worried that it's going to continue to just keep turning over and turning over. But
something else I think that you have like shown me and like through Samantha, again, we should probably have a call with her because we're mentioning her.
We talk about it about that.
Yeah. But it's the community aspect, like finding other advisors. Like you're very involved in the Texas scene and the national scene of other advisors. So would you say is the best way to get connected to that?
Find a mentor, first of all, whoever, wherever that is. That's what saved me. And then that led to another mentor and led to another mentor. And, I just remember seeing stuff from Dow Tate or Lori Oglesby thinking, oh my, this is so amazing. Now they're two of my best friends. Just because of that community. And that I think we're all open to helping and being there, but sometimes I don't know if it's a generation thing or just that pride thing of I want to figure it out myself, and you don't have to. There's so many people out there that would help. I mean, your site is one to go to, and you've helped me fix my website when I've crashed it a couple of times. So there's this community of yes, I was a mentor to you in the past, but now you know things that I don't know. And everybody's learning from each other. Yeah, it's just a great family to plug into. Go to conventions, even if it's not with students. You can network there and see people. Be a part of your state organization, JEA, and just get to run for an office. I was a regional rep for years when I was in West Texas, and that's where I felt so special to hang out and go to retreats with all the officers in the summer. And so it's just getting involved and I learned UIL because I'm from New Mexico. I didn't know anything about UIL, and I started judging meets, taking my kids to meets, and I offered to judge all the time because I wanted to learn that process. Met a lot of good friends in the judging room at UIL meets. So it's just putting yourself out there and realizing that there is help.
For sure. That's
Anybody can help you. If you've been doing this longer than, a couple of years, something to help out.
Right. Yeah. That's why for this series, I have like put out a call to anyone that wants to be on it. Like, even if you've been advising a year or 10 years or 20 years, like, I think everyone has something to share, and they do something a different way than someone else. And like, there's such value in just building relationships with not people in your same, cohort of advisors that have been doing it for same amount of time, but, people that are newer and have more experience than you, I think is so valuable. So
And I think it just spreads where, when I first met Samantha Berry 12, 15 years ago, whenever that was, she was quitting, she's like, I'm done, I'm out. And if you know Samantha, she's an amazing educator and she's super smart. And so I started introducing her to some of my friends, and now she's better friends with some of my friends than, she sees them more. And I was like, it just spreads. I give her a hard time. She's stealing all my friends, but that's just kind of the community we're in, is that,
right.
that friendships and those networks just keep growing.
I think it's really awesome too, because, and I joke that like it's the best community of teachers out there, and obviously I'm biased, but I feel like it's a very collaborative community, and people do want to share, they do want to help, they know what it feels like to not have a resource or to not have someone that understands what you do in your building. And so by and large, I mean, obviously there are competitions and stuff like that for the publications, but among advisors, I think it's very collaborative, which I think is awesome. So join the community, like be a part of it, like if you're watching.
Yeah. And that's even a respect when we go to UIL and we get beat by somebody who we know is good. My kids know that. I know that. I'm like, hey guys, hey, they're good. So
yeah, like they
like
deserve
nobody
it.
is beating us, and so they're, oh yeah, okay. It's a unique community for sure.
For sure. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat. I just think you have like a wealth of knowledge, and I could probably just talk to you all day about how you do things, because like I said, the well-oiled machine, you have done such a great job. I'll definitely put a link to the legacystudentmedia.com in the description box and in the email. So check that out. If you're a new advisor, there's a ton of resources there, and just, you can pick his brain about how he runs his program.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. I have enjoyed it thoroughly.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Of course, of course. All right, guys. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye.